Hey there, greetings everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we got a kind of a dull, rainy, cold Wednesday afternoon here in Canada, or Upper Canada, or Ontario, or whatever you want to call it. So it's created kind of a blurry kind of lighting. I could use my indoor lighting, but I just find it's too yellowish and gives off a kind of a psychedelic feel to it. So I try to just stay with the real lighting, as you can see. But anyways, we'll do what we can with it. So we're here for my favorites, which is an episode that I do every Wednesday night. Most of you know that who watch this regularly. And I try to keep it interesting. I try not to just stay with one kind of set and follow it. Every once in a while I'll do a two-parter just because it's a lengthy thing. I could have done that easily here, easily done a two-parter for this one. But I decided that I'm just going to give a rather lengthy list of honorable mentions of guitar players that I also like. So today's episode will be my 25 favorite rock guitarists. Now, I did do a 10 favorite rock guitarists a couple of years ago, but my music interest has exploded in all directions, and there's a lot of guitar players who I've been listening to a lot over the last couple of years who have made huge impacts here. That's the main reason why I decided to do this episode, was that a significant amount of change has taken place for my top 10, which I did, like I said, a couple of years ago. So I thought, you know what, it's time to do another one. I may do this for the bass players as well, maybe keyboards as well, I'm not sure, but they'll be spaced out as they normally like to do. I like to do them one after another. I don't know that I'll do the drummers because I'm doing a drumming episode right now, my mini series, but definitely we're going to start out by doing the guitarists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my 25 favorite guitarists. Now keep in mind, these are my own 25 favorite. I'm not suggesting for even a minute that these are the definitive best guitar players of all time. Some of you, and I had this on my heavy metal one, where one guy didn't like the fact that I put somebody far down in the list. Well, the truth is that it's not that the guy deserves to be in 25th or even in first. It's how I listen to them. It's also how much time I've had with them. A lot of these I haven't had nearly as much time with as I had with others. So it just stands to reason that I'm going to like the ones I've listened to a lot more. It's just the way it is. So, and I haven't gone by any kind of definition here. Some people would think, oh, the best lead guitarist of all time or the best rhythm guitarist of all time. It's kind of a mix. It's basically just who I enjoy their music the most and who I like. So it's a kind of a mixture of what I like as far as their music goes, their abilities, and them as a person overall. So, sorry, I got a bit of a runny nose today due to this not so great weather. So anyways, we're going to do this the way we always do it, which is from my least favorite to my most favorite, or from last to first, or from, in this case, 25th to first. And at the end, I will give you a list of other guitarists who I also included as honorable mentions, so that we try to cover as many as we can. I'm probably giving you almost as many honorable mentions on my list as I did with the top 25. Yeah, maybe not as many, but pretty close. Easily could have done a top 50, I think, pretty easily. So we're going to start. I've chosen an album to kind of represent each of them. Some of them are individuals, some of them are band albums. Just depends on how I felt, or what I thought had more of an influence for me or got me into them more, whatever. So anyways, we're going to start off with number 25, which comes from this band, the Scorpions, In Trance, Uli Jon Roth. Love this guy. His riffing is absolutely incredible. He's also a really good lead guitarist. I've only just kind of gotten into the back catalog of the Scorpions. I do some of the more modern ones, of course, but he wasn't on those ones. But these ones are great. Absolutely love them. The music's great, and his guitar playing is exceptional. Just want to look something up here. Give me a second, because this is a this particular package comes from a three album package, which I have on the shelf. Really good. Yeah, yeah. Just and the song that really got me into him, I was looking for it here, and I believe it's on this album, was Robot Man. Really liked this song a lot. Just a killer song. And Nightlights, of course, I like that too. But this is a guy with some real strong ability. And yeah, Uli John Roth, number 25. Number 24, another guy who I hadn't had much experience with prior to to doing this channel. I knew of the band, of course, and I'd heard stuff from them, but I never really got into their music till I started doing this. And then I bought this album last year, Uriah Heep. Mick Box is incredible on this. He's such a good guitar player, and such catchy stuff. I like his other stuff on the other albums as well, but this one here especially, I think, is a fantastic album. Probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Uriah Heep album. Really like it a lot, and they've had some strong stuff out in recent years too. But he is an amazing guitar player. Lots of that heavy riffing that I've come to like from this band. Yeah, I think that's one of the best part of Uriah Heep is the guitar riffing. Okay, next up, I know for many people this guy will be much higher up on the list, but for me, because it's only been a couple of 3 years I've gotten into him, he's made an impact on me, but it's going to be a while before he gets in the top, if he gets there, because there's a lot of great guitar players. But I do like his unorthodox, odd way of playing guitar. It's almost, it can be both aggressive and quiet, just really good. We're talking about, so I probably should have chosen a different album for this. Robert Fripp, this is Lark's Tongues and Aspics, sorry. Yeah, just such a intricate guitar player, so different in his style in all cases. You know, he can be both really extremely metal-like, and then he can be very quiet and almost very acoustic-like, and all the ranges in between too. And he plays other instruments as well, and he's a great music writer as well. So yeah, I had to put Robert Fripp on this list somewhere, and he's coming in at number 23 today. Number 22, another guy who's really well loved by a lot of metal guitar players, a lot of guys who are into hard rock. And at one time, I believe this was the greatest band in history, Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page, absolute virtuoso. Yeah, he's got a bit of a sloppy style to his music, but I think the thing that stands out most for me about Jimmy Page, other than his great guitar solos, he does some really great guitar solos, but the thing that really stands out for me with Jimmy Page is his ability to write these really catchy riffs and memorable song that's led by the guitar. Absolutely incredible stuff that he's done, creating these kind of mind-blowing riffs, I think. So he had to be on this list. He's never been one of my favorite guitar players, but I've always admired his abilities, even though he has a bit of a sloppy style to him at times too. So Jimmy Page. Number 24, this guy has no sloppy style at all. Very heavy, can be even heavier. He has the modern, or at least the modern time for me when I was growing up, he had that kind of metal sound to him, but at the same time, excellent kind of guitar tone, and doing the lead part so well. Talking about John Sykes. Now, this is the album I enjoy the most by him, but he's also on the White Snake album, and there's a few other stuff. Blue Monday, I can't remember the name of the band. Anyways, guy is a great guitar player. He has the look too. He looks like a rock star. That's why he couldn't stay with, I think that's the reason why he couldn't stay with Whitesnake. You had two guys that looked the part. Only one of them was going to get front billing, and we know which one that one was. So anyways, fantastic guitar player. Just killer riffing. I think he made Thin Lizzy into a much heavier band than they were prior to that, although I really liked all of their prior to that stuff as well. So that was number 21. Number 20, this guy's very different than the previous two. Very slow, almost bluesy at times, but melodic and memorable. Such deep and dark kind of riffs too. And we're talking about David Gilmour, of course. This guy is absolutely killer. I don't know what Pink Floyd would sound like if they had a different guitar player, but they sound, to me, he's kind of the glue of the band. He kind of keeps that sound going. That's why I chose this album, actually, because even though the lyrics aren't nearly as good here, and maybe the storytelling isn't as great as it was in the past, the guitar is still fantastic. Absolutely killer. And he just has, especially on headphones, he's one of the best guitar players to listen to. I love him. David Gilmour, number 20. Number 19, very different from any of the guys before it so far. This guy has never really showed any kind of lead ability. I know that he has it. I know from listening to interviews with the band members and stuff like that he could easily have been the lead guitarist for this band, but he chose not to. But he is absolutely a master rifter. He's come out with more master riffs and put this band at the skyrocket level they are, not just because the band of the vocals and the music, but because of his riffing. We're talking about Malcolm Young of AC/DC. I chose this album because it's the newest one I've gotten, although I've had it in the past. Just killer riffs on this, as it is on all of their albums, but you just hear that riff and it just makes you want to get involved with the song. You just, no matter what I'm doing in the house, no matter, I could be cooking or anything, as soon as I put this on, I'm just like glued to the album. So AC/DC's Malcolm Young, number 19. Number 18, kind of the same thing here, but this guy is a much more accomplished guitar player as far as his abilities go. His lead abilities are exceptional, I think. His rhythm abilities are really good. He does some really great riffs. He knows how to be forward. And there's multiple guitar players with this band, or at least there has been. But this guy is my favorite of the three main ones I'm thinking of, and we're talking about Judas Priest, Glenn Tipton. I love his playing. I think he is the exceptional guitar player on here. I'm not taking anything away from KK or Faulkner. Both really great guitar players as well, but I just think that he's the guy, Glenn Tipton. Okay, so number 17, most people was going to put this guy either first or second on their list, or maybe even definitely top 5 for sure. I've kind of grown away from the music a bit, and if you'd gone back, if I'd done this back in 84, 83, or 82, he probably would have been right near the top 3 anyways, for sure. But over years, I haven't listened to them as much, and I've gotten kind of used to his style, even though he's an incredible virtuoso. We're talking about Eddie Van Halen, of course, from Van Halen. Yeah, many people are going to say, you put Eddie Van Halen at 17. Yeah, well, it's just over time, you kind of get used to certain things, and then new things interest you a little bit more. Yeah, he's a fantastic guitar player. Yes, he's a virtuoso. He's a lead monster. His riffing is among the best. And the music they put out was fantastic too. But they also put out some stuff that wasn't so fantastic, And I wasn't really into the into the Van Hager era of the band. I really liked this quite a bit. I was more of a Lee Roth guy, although Eddie Van Halen, absolutely exceptional guitar player, cannot be replaced. Nobody will come along with the abilities he has anytime soon. Anyways, number 17, Eddie Van Halen. Number 16, this guy I like a lot. A lot of people think of this as a pop band because almost all the stuff that you hear on the radio from them is very poppy. All of their big hits were poppy, but most of their really good stuff is heavy as hell. We're talking about the Sweets, Andy Scott. I love his riffing. I love his the use of being very forward with the guitar. Plus, they can all sing really well too, which is great. I think Andy Scott really has showed me that a guy doesn't have to necessarily be the best lead guy in the world to really stand out. And he's one of those guitarists who has a good lead ability, but I think his strength is his riffing, which is something that you're going to see a continuous flow of this throughout my top 25 here. I am really one of those people that likes that guitar riffing quite a bit. So Andy Scott, number 16. Number 15 was probably much higher, especially early in my rock history. He was easily my favorite guitar player early on, but he's faded over time. I began to realize that he, as good as he is with the riffing part and coming up with those master case riffing, and the solos were actually extraordinarily memorable and all that, his abilities aren't as good as I once thought they were, but he's still a fantastic guitar player in my opinion. Really knows how to create a sound that draws people in. Ace Frehley, and this is my favorite album. He had to be on the list. At one time he was much higher. It's come down a little bit, but he still deserves to be on the list. So number 15, Ace Frehley. The same with this guy. I absolutely loved his stuff at one point. I was so into him that he was probably my favorite guitarist for a short period of time. And I think he's an absolutely incredible musician. Very, very good inventive skills, excellent guitar ability. The sounds he could get out of guitar were second to nobody. The distortion, absolutely, you know who we're talking about, Hendrix. Many consider him to be the best guitar player of all time. I will not argue with that. There is a bit of a movement out there that suggests that maybe he's not as good as people think he is. They're wrong. He's better than people think he is. You got to remember, in 1967, nobody was doing what he was doing. Nobody. And he was just virtually a guitar god. So Jimi Hendrix, number 14. At one time, again, he would have been number 1. I don't listen to Hendrix's music as much as I once did, but I still like it a lot, and so he had to be on my list. Next up, this is a band that I've already talked about one guitarist from it already. I think this is the only band with well, there's 2 bands that have 2 guitarists from them that I mentioned. This is the other band. This is one of the bands. I like this guy's earlier on stuff with this band. It's so catchy, along with his partner in crime here. But I like Scott Gorham. Excellent guitar player, great riff master, and the lead parts are really good as well. I've always enjoyed the sounds that he's made, and so he's going to be making it here at number 13. Okay, number 12. This is a guy who I had listened to quite a bit when I was younger, but kind of got away from him a bit because I didn't really, I don't know why I thought this, but I guess maybe it was just what I was listening to. I just never really thought he was that great of a guitar. I thought he was a little bit overrated, and he had an ego problem, so I didn't really care for him that much. But I've come to appreciate the stuff that he can do. He is absolutely one of the best lead guitar players, I think, out there at any point in history. Definitely memorable. He knows how to make the riffs too. Good songwriter, very dominant guitar player. Ritchie Blackmore. Is there anybody who can make that kind of guitar sound like him? Especially with the use of his fretting hand so fast. Yeah, he's so good. Ritchie Blackmore in at number 12. Number 10, or number 11 and number 10 come from the same band. I kind of put them in this order, 10 and 11, but they could have easily flipped and been in the other order. I enjoy both of them for different reasons. One of them more acoustic oriented. I'm playing little bits of acoustic stuff along with other different guitar type instruments. The other guy, a killer riff master, a killer lead guitar player. They both can play lead really well. We're talking about Tommy Shaw and J.Y. of Styx. Both of them great. At times I enjoy J.Y. when I like that heavier mood. I tend to like his stuff a little bit more. but most of the time it's usually Tommy Shaw who I enjoy the most. So there you go, number 11 and number 10, Tommy Shaw and JY. Next up, from a Canadian band who I love. This guy is a virtuoso. He's so good, great at those riffs, fantastic singer as well, and one of the best guitar soloists I think out there, and just absolutely a stage killer. Triumph's Rick Emmett. Yeah, to me he's very underrated. I think he's an underrated guitar player. He doesn't get as much notoriety as some of the other great guitar players get, but he deserves to be up here. There's no doubt about it. Okay, next up, this guy's not a great lead guitar player, very average. Great riff master, fantastic songwriter, great stage presence, and considered one of the absolutely most loved musicians out there. Pete Townsend of The Who. Yeah, I chose this one because I really like this album quite a bit. He is just so good at writing tunes and putting together those riffs and those sounds with his guitar. And of course his stage antics are probably greater than any of these other guys. Well, maybe Hendrix might be a little bit more. Anyways, Pete Townsend coming in at number 8. I think he was much higher on my original list, but with the onset of so many other guitar players, he had to fit in here somewhere, but he just wasn't as high. This guy has really come on for me. I did own this particular album I'm going to show you. I have enjoyed a lot of their music, and he is a great riff master, really catchy stuff, but more than that, some of the guitar stuff he does is really much better than he's actually noted for. And we're talking about Donald Rozier, Buck Dharma. I was going to call him just Buck Dharma, and then I had thought, we got to put in his real name so people know who he is. Donald Rozier, or Buck Dharma, whatever you want to call him. Great guitar player, legendary to me. He's fantastic. Doesn't get quite the notoriety because maybe his band didn't do as well as some of these other bands, but he definitely belongs up here. And so he's number 7. Number 6 is a guy who I think has no notoriety. Nobody even knows who plays guitar and really pays much attention to this band, except for the people here on YouTube, and especially in the prog community. This guy is a killer guitar player. He can do it all. He can make those riffs. He can make that intricate stuff. He can play all kinds of different sounds. He can play all kinds of different guitars. He's just fantastic. We're talking about Gary Green of Gentle Giant. Definitely a guy who has come to my attention. Yes, I did know about him back in the early 80s, and I had an album and I had to listen to him, but I've since taken up the battle cry of Gentle Giant being one of the great bands of all time, and Gary Green is a strong proponent of this band, I think. I just wish that they had done more. They shut down when he was in his prime. It's just such a shame. But anyways, he's coming here at number 6. Just imagine where he would be if they had continued. Next up, from another band from that time period, similar band, lots of the same type of music, but gifted with a absolutely legendary guitar player, a guy who I never really gave much credit to. I always knew he was good. Don't ever think that I didn't think that. I always thought he was good, but I just never paid much attention to his ability because it was overshadowed by other stuff in the group, other people. He wasn't as forward a type of individual as some of the other members of the band were. We're talking about, see if I can get it up here close. Steve Hackett, yes. Yes, some absolute killer stuff. He has a ton of his own stuff too, so if you really want to learn this guy's guitar stuff, you can go on his solo stuff and you'll hear a ton of stuff. He's become more of a dominant guitar player over the last while as well. Before that, he wasn't really a pushy type of guy. He's kind of not as front and center. He had his opinions, and they weren't shared as much in the band, but definitely he is And the thing about him that I like is that he's recently showed his electric ability as being really heavy, and the soloing is absolutely killer. And I didn't know he had this in him with the electric guitar. I always think of him as an acoustic guitar master, but he is actually he's just a guitar master, absolutely killer. Definitely one of the best guitar players there has ever been and may ever be. So I had to put him here, and he's still fairly new to me. I'm still listening through his stuff, and I've got him here at number 5 already. So absolutely killer, Steve Hackett. Next up is a guy who, to me, is the ultimate riff master. So many catchy, memorable riffs come from this guy's guitar, and it's so heavy and so strong. I don't really think of him as being a lead guitarist, although he definitely has that ability. He's strong on the lead guitar. Definitely would rank, if you were just going by lead guitars, he's going to rank up there still. But for me, I know him as coming up with some of the most iconic riffs in rock. Sabbath's Tony Iommi, yeah, this album, fantastic. Yeah, so he just a killer guitar player, and ability to write music, and just change too, because if you listen to the stuff that he did with early Sabbath, and then you compare that to the Dio stuff, and even to the Ian Gillan stuff, and even to the Tony Martin stuff, it's really different in all the cases. His ability to adjust, just an amazing guitar player. Even though he's considered a heavy metal guitar player, I actually think of him as being more of a virtuoso, a guy who can play all kinds of styles. Any style he wants to play, he can play it. Anyways, Tony Iommi. Next up, the last 3. The next guy could have switched around with Steve Hackett or Tony Iommi or even Gary Green, but I chose him because I'm more familiar with his stuff. I actually like the stuff that he's put out maybe a little better than the others I just said. We're talking about Jethro Tull's Martin Barre. Yeah. This guy, underrated, I think, can play that electric guitar better, as good or better than most guitar players. He has an acoustic ability as well. He's such a notable guy. When you see him on stage, you notice him right away. And I just think that he's underrated. He doesn't get quite, people don't think of him as being an upper echelon guitar player, but I think he's definitely in that group. Maybe he's not as good as some of the other ones that I put below him, but I think he created that sound that I like more. So Jethro Tull's Martin Barre. The next 2 were easily the top 2, was never really in dispute. Most people know who's coming, and if they know me at all, they know who's coming. It's just a matter of who's going to go first. I chose to put Alex Lifeson at number 2. The greatest thing about Alex Lifeson, other than his sense of humor, which I absolutely adore, is his ability to write really catchy and memorable riffs. And when it comes time to doing the acoustic part, he's really top-notch at that as well. He's also really good at solos, and they're unique too. Like when you think about Rush, all their albums sound so differently up to a certain point, and even then they sound differently. It's because I think it's primarily because of his guitar ability. He just captures. He's very innovative. He's very really good at writing like really complex, creative riffs. I love the guy. I think he's absolutely an outstanding player. One of my favorite musicians, no doubt about it. And so, but he's going to come here at number 2, only because I happen to love this guy even more. We're talking about Steve Howe. I don't want to belate it. It's Steve Howe. He's my favorite guitar player. If you had brought this up 3 years ago and said, oh, he's not the best of all time, I would have argued blue in the face with you. that he was the best of all time. I'm not going to argue that point because I've since discovered that it's very subjective. Some people absolutely love his stuff, other people can't stand him. However, you can't deny his ability. The guy, acoustically, he's as good as anybody out there, maybe more so than anybody out there. Maybe Steve Hackett, I think they're pretty close. Electrically, at times, he's been absolutely masterful with the different sounds on different albums too. Like if you listen to Relayer, you're going to hear some absolutely incredible guitar soloing. And then you go to something like Drama, where it's really heavy and scorching, and just the way, the tone on it is unbelievable from a guy who doesn't really show that kind of tone anywhere else. No, but he can play anything, and he plays all kinds of different guitars, plays them all well. He can play other things too. I've heard him play banjo. I've heard him play just about everything. I've seen him live. I've seen him on the internet playing bluesy stuff. I've seen him doing everything. The guy is absolutely incredible, and he's a great music writer on top of that. To me, it's unfortunately the combination of John Anderson and Steve Howe together writing music and writing lyrics and putting songs together is not appreciated enough. I think some people don't understand why. Nothing against John Davidson. I think he's a good musician, but I don't think he has the ability to write the stuff that John Anderson does or work with Steve Howe as good as John Anderson. And understandably, these guys were an incredible combination. It's hard to come up with that. And Steve Howe, being the great guitar player that he is, you know, if you listen to Close to the Edge, which I think is the greatest prog album of all time, he is so intricate and so well done, and he works so well with Chris Squire and Rick Wakeman, even Bill Bruford. All of them work so well together. And so to me, Steve Howe wins this, or doesn't win anything, but he's my favorite. My favorite guitarist, Steve Howe. So I'm just going to give you these guys one more time in reverse order. I won't bother with the albums this time. So Steve Howe, number 1. Alex Lifeson, number 2. Martin Barr, number 3. Tony Iommi, number 4. Steve Hackett, number 5. Gary Green, number 6. Donald Buck Dharma Rozier. Pete Townsend of The Who, of course. Rick Emmett of Triumph. Tommy Shaw and JY, or James Young, of Styx. Richie Blackmore of Rainbow and Deep Purple. Scott Gorham, of course, from Thin Lizzy. Jimi Hendrix, Ace Frehley, Andy Scott from The Sweet, Eddie Van Halen, Glenn Tipton, Malcolm Young, David Gilmour, John Sykes. Number 22, Jimmy Page. Number 23, Robert Fripp. Number 24, Mick Box. Number 25, Uli John Roth. Yeah, absolutely. All of these guys are really good, and there's a ton more of people that could have gone on this list. And you know, I may do another one of these in a couple years, and you may get an entirely different list, because that's how many great guitar players there are. So I just wanted to mention some of the honorable ones so that people don't feel left out at all. Other people that I really like, both the guys, or actually all three of, well, no, I'm thinking of somebody else, sorry. The two guys from Iron Maiden, Adrian Smith and Dave Murray, both really good guitar players. Real catchy riffs. They work so well as a tandem. Few tandems work as well as them, I think. You got Randy Bachman, of course, who made my original top 10 list, but I haven't been listening to them as much, and I think I've come to enjoy some of these other ones more at this point in time. Part of me thinks Randy should have been on this list, and maybe he will be again. It may be just that time period where I'm just not listening to him as much as I was for a while. You got KK Downing and Richie Faulkner. Both of these guys are good. Could have easily put one of them instead of Glenn Tipton, but I just think Tipton is the one I like the most. Nancy Wilson and Roger Fisher from Heart. Both of them playing their parts in the group really well. I enjoyed both of their aspects of their music. Next up, we have Brian Jones, of course, from the Rolling Stones. You could have put Mick Taylor in there and Ron Wood as well, but I personally think Brian Jones is the better musician of the three. I know I'm going to take some heat for that, but I like Brian Jones. Mick Ronson David Bowie. Sorry, I drew a blank there for some reason. Mick Ronson. I always liked that stuff that he did, and you know, this brings up, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan, who I think absolutely is a killer guitar player as well. Maybe one of the best, if not the best, guitar lickers of all time, man. Just so good. Jimi Hendrix, of course, I already said him. Manny Charlton, Tom Schmaltz, Burton Avery, all great in their different styles. You know, you got Manny Charlton, really heavy stuff from Nazareth. Tom Schmaltz, that more clean, polished guitar riffing sound that you get with Boston. And Burton Avery with the knack, really good guitar soloing and really catchy riffs as well. Then you have Neil Young, of course, in his really kind of pedantic kind of acoustic sound, and then his real heavy kind of grindy, kind of distorted electric sound as well. I enjoy Neil's sound. I know he's not one of the greatest guitarists ever, but he's definitely has a sound that I enjoy. David Brock and Mick Box, Andy Latimer of Camel, some really great guitar soloing, some really great guitar sounds, very underrated guitar player, I think. David Brock, exact same thing. Really good at getting that most out of that sound that Hawkwind has. I really enjoy that sound, different versions of it. Just in that spacey rock is really good as well. Mick Box, of course, I've already said. So I'll just leave him out because I forgot I put him on the list. Rick Ocasek of the Cars, really unique sound. I enjoy that sound as well. Neil Schon, probably for me, I see him as being one of the great guitar players of his time. I'm not a big fan of that music, the stuff by Journey. One or two songs I like, but I think he's the master of that sound. And even though I don't really listen to that much, I still appreciate the kind of ability that this guy has. And then a couple other guys. We're going to go with Anthony Phillips. I almost put Anthony on this list because I enjoy that album that he was on with Genesis so much, the second one, The Trespass. But I didn't think it was fair to put a guy from one album on the list when there's so many other guys who deserve to be on the list as well. And there's lots of other people I didn't mention that I haven't really explored much. Michael Schenker, I've not listened to him as much. And there's others. I can't even think of them all. There's so many great guitar players out, especially in the metal realm. There are a ton of really great guitar players that I'm only now just learning and exploring. So yeah, there's some fantastic stuff. And there's some guys also that probably in the more obscure kind of prog sound that I haven't really got a chance to really explore thoroughly enough to really kind of rate them. But I'm sure that that's all going to happen. Anyways, I just wanted to thank you for showing up today and listening to my top 25 favorite guitarists. And please hit the like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. Don't forget to make any comments about the bands, or the guitarists below if you want. How would your top 5 or 10, or even if you want to put all 25, you can do that. You can put that down as well. And also, don't forget to hit the notification bell. It's much appreciated. And we will be back next week with another top. I think we'll be doing a 5 next week. So we will see you then. Have yourself a good night and take care. Bye.